Okay, welcome, welcome, welcome. We are just admitting all in the waiting room. So as you all get connected here, we'll go ahead and kick off right on time. Welcome, welcome. We thank everyone for being here this Tuesday, for taking some time with us, possibly on your lunch break. We appreciate you being here. We have some amazing presenters for you today. And welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Diane Michael. I am the Outreach Coordinator for the National Childcare Association. And I'm just going to go over some housekeeping tips for you today. We ask that you stay on mute until the Q&A section at the end. We'll just have some brief comments here in the beginning, and then we'll transfer over to our presenters. And then that will go until about 1:40, 1:45, and then we'll have 15 minutes for Q&A at the end. We do have a number of people that are attending, so we thank everyone for being here. So to streamline some of these questions while they're hot on your mind during the presentation, if you want to shoot me questions directly, I'm going to be your host, and you'll be able to see me with this logo, the National Child Care Association logo, and it says National Child Care. You can just hit the chat button and shoot me questions, and then, I will shoot them over to our presenters during the presentation so we can expedite the Q&A after. If you have questions and you need to get back to business, we also will keep the questions and send out a survey at the end after this presentation, and a link to the webinar so that you can share with others as well. Just a very brief disclaimer I'd like to read here. By being involved in this platform, you are authorizing permission for this to be videotaped and uploaded to our website. Additionally, no reproduction or use of this video may be made without prior written consent by the National Child Care Association. And with that, it's my honor to introduce you to our director, Cindy Lenhaus.
Hello, I seem to have lost my site, so I am talking to you all in front of a white blank screen. Not sure what happened, but I do want to welcome all of you today. It's always good to talk to the most essential people in the world, I think, because you are the essential that allows the essential to go to work, as I often say, and so do many others. We are excited that we have a really group of elite childcare professionals that own childcare businesses, and they consult with centers. And some of you, may recognize them, and I am going to let them elaborate a little bit more on who they are and what it is that they do and what information they're going to bring you today. And I hope you feel that you can ask questions at the end of this. There is going to be an awesome giveaway from one of our presenters, Caroline Jens from Childcare Biz. And as I understand it, it's the leadership kit that I have had the experience of viewing and looking at before. So it will be a big win for someone. All you need to do is stay on the line until the end, and we will announce the winner and make sure that it gets appropriately shipped to you. As always, I want to spend about 5 minutes before I turn it over to our presenters with a little bit of an update from Washington, D.C. As you know, we have been advocating with our partners in D.C., Childcare Aware of America, the Early Child Education Consortium, NACCE, the National Women's Law Center, and First Focus Children's Budget and Lobby Committee to get Congress to provide $50 billion to help stabilize the childcare industry during our pandemic and actually long after. So just as a breakdown, as you may recall, there was $3.5 billion put into the Child Care Development Block Grant back in March, for the first childcare relief, known as the care package. And I hope that every one of you received a piece of that so that it helped you, stay in, at least out of the red, and kept your business open and at least able to survive. And then again, I reported on our last webinar that at the end of December, another childcare relief or another COVID relief package had passed, and it is providing $10 billion additional dollars to the childcare block grant, which is going out as we speak to states and the childcare agencies, in each of your states. I really want to emphasize that $10 billion is almost twice what we receive in any other year for the child care block grant. So that's a lot of money, along with the 3.5 that we also got and our normal 5.8. And just for example, because I know we have Floridians on the call, Florida child care is receiving from this pot of money $1.5 million to add to their, $1.5 billion to add to childcare. And this money will be used as the governor and your childcare licensing agency sees fit to best support you. So some states did a better job of this than last when we received the 3.5 billion, and others sat on the money. So I would encourage you to contact your governor's office, your child care agency, and not your licensing worker, but someone above them. And you can go to their website because it should already start talking about this money to find out how you are going to, be able to benefit from it. Don't wait until, other people do it for you. There are parameters and that the money has to be spent on, and they do have until the end of 2022 to spend it. So you might also have to create an urgency. If there's anybody from Missouri on, you guys are getting $444 million. Let's see, Shalom, you're from Illinois. You might already know this, but I'm sure there's other people on. You guys are receiving some additional dollars of $497 million on the block grant. And if the next bill goes through, which is for $40 billion, we are going to see more money than childcare has ever seen before. So I would encourage you to, if you're not a member and receiving our emails, we will give you guidance from our partners that we work with on how to stay in touch with the powers that be on how this money is going to be spent, because this is a large pot of money, and $25 billion of the 40 will be to stabilize the childcare industry. And there are already committees forming to help be a part of how that money will be distributed. So if you all have any ideas for that, if you want to forward them to me, I am very open to hearing from you to make sure that we are doing what providers think they need. We already have our, own ideas. And again, our emails can help you know what those are, and you can let us know if we're on the right track or not. So it is a celebration, and I want to thank every one of you for participating in the advocacy when we ask you, in action alerts and in social media to contact your U.S. legislators. I think they've received a lot of pressure. And ultimately, while the bill has not been signed by Joe Biden, it is expected to pass the House and be signed no later than March 14th. and because it did pass the Senate, I think it was Friday. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Sholom, Caroline, and Casey, and let them have you for the next 45 minutes so that there's an opportunity, for sharing of best practices during a pandemic. Thank you again for joining.
Well, great. I think I'll get started, guys. I'm Caroline Jens. Thank you, Cindy, so much for the great introduction, and Diane and Storm and, the whole NCCA team. We're very excited to be here today. We have so much information, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time, but I've probably met a lot of you before. I'm the owner of Childcare Biz Help, and, we do consulting and help businesses become stronger, both profitable and in their culture. And with me today, or I've been invited to this webinar, I should say, Sholom is with us. He's an owner of 10 childcare centers in Illinois. And he has recently formed a partnership with Casey, who is also a client of mine. And she owns 2 childcare centers here in Florida. So they are in the trenches every day, living and breathing this stuff. And we know firsthand what it's like to, have your enrollment go down from, go from being full to capacity all the way down to, 20%. So they've lived this struggle on a day-to-day basis, and we're still not out of the woods yet. So that's why we thought this was a great topic. We're going to talk about strategies to help you rebuild your enrollment. And we're just going to touch on a couple key areas, and then we're going to have some really great resources that you'll be able to take away with you. Shalom's going to start us off today with, how some really great marketing ideas, ways to make your customers feel safe, because that's what they need to feel safe again, right? So he's going to go over some things there. Casey's going to go over the communication piece, and then I'll touch on culture. And then Shalom's going to wrap us up today with a really cool tool that you can use to kind of help with that enrollment piece at the end and fill some of your empty slots. And then as Cindy mentioned, Cindy mentioned this, we are going to have a really great giveaway. We have a quarterly subscription box for center directors that's filled with not only fun stuff, but really great leadership tools. And our next box has about $400 worth of value in it. So that's going to be a free giveaway. And I want to give a shout out to Justina, the partner at Childcare Biz Help. She's listening in today. She's the one that puts all these beautiful boxes together. So we're getting started. Shalom, I'm going to turn it over to you, my friend.
All right. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Cindy and Storm and NCCA for all the wonderful advocacy you're doing for us. We appreciate it. And thank you very much for having us today. So today we're going to talk about, at least for my portion, we're going to talk about effective marketing during COVID. As Cindy mentioned before, I am an owner of several sites in the Chicago area, and we definitely were hit hard with the pandemic. And, we've been struggling to reassure people. And lately we're seeing, hopefully due to these efforts, an uptick, and hopefully thanks to the vaccines, and hopefully we're climbing our way out of this soon. So we're seeing a slight uptick, but still for many of those that are in states that were highly affected by the pandemic, you all know how difficult it's been to regain trust and get customers to come back. So what we want to share with you today is what's been effective for us and what we've strategized together to do to keep the doors open and to get people coming back. So here's the effective marketing during COVID slide, where the first point is you want to make customers feel safe. That's obvious right now. That's one of the biggest factors, and we're going to get into how to do that. Of course, in childcare, we have a limited budget, so we want to get the most exposure for the least effort and cost. We don't want to go to several advertising mediums. We want to try to condense as much as we can for as little as we can and reach the right people. We want to attract the right crowd, and we want to drive enrollment. So all the techniques that we're going to show you are geared towards these goals. So the first idea that we want to share with you is what's called a QR code. So if you're not familiar with QR codes, you may be familiar now, because during the pandemic, if you've gone to restaurants and things like that, a lot of things have become contactless, and don't be overwhelmed by it. I know it looks a little bit technologically savvy, but if you type in Google, they can create these for you instantly. And basically what a QR code does is it allows you, customer, to just open on an Android or Apple or any phone you have, just open your camera and hover over it, and it will take you to a certain website. So what we decided to do, this is one of our schools, it's called the Nook. What we decided to do was update our existing materials with QR codes so that people could see that we've developed techniques on how to keep people safe. See at the bottom where it's circled, it says, learn how we're keeping safe at nookdaycare.com/COVID. So you want to make sure that you have a nice health and safety page. We have a particular page set up for COVID-19, discussing the protocols that we have in place, which I highly recommend. And this is something that I feel the consumers are going to be looking for in the future, because they're going to be interested not only in your COVID safety, now that their antenna is perked up about that, but all just general about cleanliness and safety in your facility. So the first thing we want to offer you is the idea of simply going to, and I think we're going to provide a resource at the end, an email that will provide you links to resources where you can get such things. I believe the place we bought this QR code was called Sticker Mule. It's like a sticker company. So these are just stickers that we simply just decided to stick on to our existing flyers, brochures, regular collateral materials. So that's our first idea that we'd like to share with you that's really effective. It accomplishes the goals of making customers feel safe, getting the most exposure for least cost. It's easy to keep consistent. It attracts the right crowd, and it drives enrollment. Okay, thanks, Caroline. Awesome. So, no, that was perfect. You're good. So the next idea we had was, we figured during the peak of the pandemic, if people are out in stores and cafes and restaurants, those are obviously people that we want to target, because they're, not super afraid to be out and about. So we decided, why not come up with a promotional product that is health conscious, that we could put in, in grassroots marketing type of locations, like area cafes, restaurants, etc. So we decided to order for our brand a pen that has a sanitizer spray in it. And we made like these cute little cups, and we put like a sticker on the cup, same sticker that I showed you before, and kind of just stuck them in local stores and businesses that were open during the pandemic, and supplied them with a pen that had a little, as you can see at the top, it has a sanitizer sprayer at the top. So again, another idea where customers are going to feel safe. It's easy to do. It's relatively low cost, and you could just refresh those over the months. Just call the local stores and see how they're doing with them. And it's good to build connections with them as well, so they know who you are. All right, Caroline. All right. So this is one of tips that I've shared before, but we've added a twist to it. But I'll get into as you can see, the pink sign, one of our brands is called Tiny Tot. And I've noticed that when you're driving up and down the street, even though you might have great signage on your windows and on your storefront, people don't necessarily turn their head left or right to see. But when you have what's called an A-frame sign that you could put in front of your property, people, they target in on it. So what we do every day is if we need registration or brand awareness, we put out the regular sign. And it's free daily exposure. People can see better at street level, so it's easier for them to notice. And also you can ask other businesses that are nearby if they're willing to promote you. If you could leave signage of any type, it could be a lawn sign, it could be this type of sign. You might want to partner with other businesses that are nearby just to say that you're open and that you're alive and kicking during this coronavirus pandemic. The other thing we decided to do was to make a sign that kind of demonstrates the cleanliness of the facility. We have this net zero fogger that we use to disinfect all the surfaces every night. So we're also putting that out as an extra reassurance for people who drive by so they can see that we're very conscientious about coronavirus. So that's another, great tip to establish trust with people that you're taking it seriously and that you really care about cleaning your facility. All right. The next tip we want to share with you is Google Ads. We all know that basically to find anything on the internet, you need to go to Google first. Basically impossible to find things other than through Google. So everybody starts out there. So we really believe in the power of Google Ads. It's one of our highest referral sources. And we feel that it's a great idea to use search terms that people are familiar with. So we all know we're childcare providers and we'd like to be called as such, but the reality is a lot of people are searching for the word daycare. So you have to use the words that people are searching for. The other thing you should do in your ads, as you can see in our ad, is include the COVID protocol. So in our ad, you can see it says reduced class size, masks worn, increased sanitation, and indoor ventilation, call now. Also, it's a good idea to hire a professional because this can get a little bit overwhelming. It shouldn't be too expensive, but it can get a little overwhelming. So definitely think about hiring a professional. And finally, another great tip is Google has a thing called Google My Business, which is basically controlling your profile, controlling your profile of your business page. So under that profile, you can add posts for free. You can add images of what's going on in your school, and you get a lot of free clicks and views. And that's worked really effectively for our centers, and also I believe, Casey centers in Florida. So that's a great tip to go start taking your Google My Business page very seriously, take control of it, update it. And we feel that since Google wants you to use their tools, they're going to prioritize showing Google-based images that you provide and posts and all sorts of things that you provide through Google My Business. It's basically going to put your business listing on steroids. So we're starting to make heavy use of it. And I think it's going to be a great tool for childcare providers to use as well, to keep people informed and up to date on what's going on. Okay, so now down to our final tip here, which is online reviews. I always refer to online reviews as basically the credibility currency of the internet. If you're not getting reviews actively and you don't have an active system to collect reviews from your clients, you should definitely think about it. First of all, they provide a high level of trust. You can ask clients, about once a month or so to try to add a review to Google, Facebook, or Yelp. And you can also ask them to mention the COVID protocols that you're taking so that other clients see that you're taking it very seriously and they're more inclined to use you. Another thing we do is we celebrate them with staff. As soon as we see a review come through, we make sure all the staff members of that child care center know that a review came through. We're really proud of them, give them compliments and praise them. And also we put it on our website and we put it inside of our child care center. We'll print out the reviews and we have what's called a review board. And we say, hey, here's a bunch of 5-star reviews so that when parents are touring, they can see all the great 5-star reviews that we have. So, yeah, that's, basically the end, I think, of my tips. Excuse me, a little bit hot in this room, borrowing a room from somebody. But that's basically the end of my tips. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Casey, who's going to talk to you about staff communication. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Casey Kennedy. I'm happy to be here today. I'm actually, when Caroline said we're in the trenches with you, I'm actually at one of my locations today, and I am in most days, so I can definitely relate to all of the things that you guys are going through. The good thing about communication is that as childcare providers, we are communication rock stars. So this is our time to shine, and communication is definitely going to be our way to build relationships with our families and with our staff, which right now, due to COVID, we're having limited interactions with our parents. So we have to be really intentional about our communication. And then on top of that, we're having, I know I've shared with other providers or other providers have shared with us that they're having a lot of staffing issues, like turnover is much higher than it normally is, and that's already a struggle for childcare. So we have to be intentional with our communication with our staff to make sure we're building that relationship as well. So I've kind of broken this down into 3 sections, just staff communication, parent communication, and then potential parents or prospective parents. And we could go on and on about this forever, so I'm going to make it concise, but we do have a lot of resources that we're going to share that you can also utilize. And then if you have any additional questions, you can reach out. I'm putting my email in the resources. So with staff communication, when I was preparing for this, I asked many of my staff members, what sets one school apart from another? Because we have picked up several staff members from other schools during this time due to the added stresses. And the truth is, it has to do more with the environment, the expectations, and the appreciation than the compensation. So it's not just the dollar amount they're receiving. So this is a time where we can go back to square one and look at what we already have in place and revamp them. We have some downtime, or some of us have some downtime. It's a good time to start back to the basics. So number one, we need to be providing clear expectations and feedback. So one thing you can look at is your onboarding process. We need to make sure that we're onboarding our new staff all in a uniform way, so they're all getting clear information right from day one. How can we expect them to do things in the way that we want them to without them actually knowing what the expectations are? And this can be as simple as a checklist to start, so that you know that every staff is being onboarded in the same way and getting the same information, because we all know that we get pulled away 10 million times when we're trying to onboard one staff. So if you break it down in a checklist, that will ensure that you're going back to make sure that you've gone through everything that you want to discuss or review with them. The second thing is making sure that you have job descriptions, and job descriptions for the actual job that they're hired for, so they understand what their expectations are, and that will help them with their relationships with their staff as well. So if you have a teacher, a lead teacher, and a co-teacher, what are each of their responsibilities? And that will help them have a better work relationship in their classroom. Make sure that we're evaluating our staff. You know, it's really important that if we tell them they're going to evaluate them after 90 days, they really rely on that evaluation. Although they may not bring it up, they're wondering how they're doing, they want feedback, and they want to learn and grow. So make sure that you're, you know, at least if you're the owner, you're holding your directors accountable to having those evaluations and having them on time and giving feedback. But even more so, I would make sure that those evaluations are aligning with your core values as a school. So I know Caroline, I think, is talking a little bit about those core values, so she'll touch on that. But if the core values are what represent your school, we need to make sure that we're evaluating their performance based on those core values. So if one of your core values is that you have a family environment, but yet your evaluation has nothing to do with creating that family environment and relationships, then how are we effectively evaluating our staff? And then lastly, for that section, oh, I forgot to mention one tip. For our schools, between Sholom and I, we use what's called Slack. So it's just an app that allows for constant communication amongst your staff. And it can be for fun, so it's not just for work communication, but the staff do like to have, you know, a little chatter back and forth about fun things they did in your class. So Slack is a really easy app that you can get up and running in a day, and you can make little groups within the app that allow the classrooms to talk amongst their age group, or it can be at an admin level, and you can have all different chats going on, and it's really fun, and it keeps your staff engaged. And then showing appreciation and, meeting regularly and communicating often. So Slack is one tool to do that, just for the fun communication and daily communication. But I recommend that everyone start doing a weekly staff email. It's a way to keep your staff in touch with what's going on in your school. What feedback we've gotten from our staff is sometimes they feel out of the loop. So when it comes to all these new policies and procedures that we're putting in place due to COVID, sometimes they feel like they're the last to be heard. And that can make them feel really underappreciated. So just doing a quick weekly staff email, take 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be anything super decorative or this crazy newsletter. It's more important that you just do it. So we do those every Friday, and the staff has really loved feeling like they're hearing the same information or information before the parents are hearing it. And then the last thing is staff meetings. Sometimes we'll go, you know, you find yourself as a childcare provider going 6 months without having a staff meeting, because especially now it's hard to get people to come in after hours or over the weekend. So we've started hosting Zoom monthly staff meetings. So from their classroom during nap time, we have a Zoom staff meeting. We all tune in at the same time every month. And if they can't be there, they're on their lunch break, you know, they can tune in on their lunch break, or they can watch the recording. But that ensures that we're not missing a monthly meeting, and we can, you know, respect their work-life balance and not do it after hours. And then lastly, we have to show appreciation for our staff and support. So as we get really busy as owners and directors, sometimes this gets forgotten. So one thing that we found very helpful in making sure that we show appreciation is put those reminders in your Google Calendar or whatever calendar you use or your directors use, make it intentional. So whatever it is that you want to do for appreciation, build it into your calendar, and your staff doesn't have to know that you're being reminded, but it can be something as simple as today, walk around and tell 5 staff members how appreciative you are of their positive attitude. But building in those reminders will allow it to not be forgotten. And that's one thing that is going to really build your loyalty fence with your staff, is them feeling appreciated. And then showing support, I would say that many staff are looking for long-term goals and career path support. So by creating some career paths within your school that you can help your teachers and your directors feel like you're helping them move forward to their future goals, that's really going to help build your rapport amongst your staff. So you can build some simple career paths or, check-in points where you're helping them get to that next step or helping them figure out what that next step is to their personal growth. And that's really going to build that loyalty fence with your staff. We also encourage directors to do one-on-one meetings with their staff every month. And this can be as simple as a 5-minute meeting with a purpose of simply listening, because your staff wants to feel heard. So it's not a time to give criticism, it's a time to listen. And just that 5-minute meeting once a month really helps them feel like you're there to support them and that you care more about them just being your employee, but you also care about their well-being as well. So that's that for staff communication. We could go on and on, but most importantly, just provide clear expectations, give feedback, and communicate often. With parent communication, to put it in a nutshell, when I was talking to my directors about this, I asked them, if someone were to build a bright and shiny new school just around the corner and they charge $20 less per week than what we do, what is going to prevent our parents from jumping ship? Because if it's bright and shiny and new and they charge less, their first instinct might be to go to that new school. So what is it that makes your school so different that a parent wouldn't want to leave? And it's that relationship piece. So right now, what we really have to work on is making sure that without parents coming in our building, or if they're coming in, it's at a limited capacity, we need to make sure that we're being very intentional with the communication that we're having with our parents, and we're continuing to build those connections in new and unique ways. So the 3 things that I think are really helpful in building that are making sure that our policies are clear and our procedures are clear from day one. So what we found is helpful with existing families, just any of your COVID procedures or policies that you already have in place, you need to make sure that you're communicating those with your parents. For example, if next week you have an exposure and you have to shut down a classroom for a week, do your parents already know what the tuition implications are? Because if the answer is no, then when you do let them know, they're going to be shocked and it's going to create a lot more turmoil. But in advance, if you already have these COVID procedures in place and you have, you've communicated them with your families in writing, it's much easier for them to digest because they're already prepared for what the consequences are. The same with COVID reporting, and if someone in the household has COVID, any of these procedures need to be put in writing and they need to know ahead of time. So it's not just they're finding out in the moment and it's just not going to go over well. But other things, not just COVID, but when it comes to your sickness policy, biting policy, we know biting is a constant problem in childcare, but we found that these topics that we constantly have to deal with in a negative way with parents, if we're very upfront with them in the enrollment process and have a one-on-one conversation and maybe a pre-enrollment meeting, we go over what the consequences are and what actions we're going to take, and we do it up front instead of doing it when we're in the moment. And that really helps build our relationship with parents because they understand, they feel like we're being transparent and they already know what to expect before it happens. So creating those clear policies and procedures is really going to build that relationship. Our parents, in our experience, have just really appreciated the transparency and nothing is a shock for them. They know what's going to happen next. Second, just building that loyalty fence by connecting. So the daily communication, however you're doing it right now, is so important. Parents aren't able to come into the classroom, so we have to find ways to connect. So if you're using an app like Brightwheel or ProCare Connect, the teachers sometimes can get so busy that they forget to update those apps or send out some communication. So we need to make sure that they really are communicating a lot through those apps and posting pictures. We found that a good way to do that and to assist our staff in doing that is having the directors send out daily reminders. So for example, if we want to make sure that they send a message to all of their parents 3 times a week, because there's some parents that just never reach out, so they might not be messaging back and forth, we give them a topic. So we say, today, please reach out to your families and let them know something cute and funny about their kid. So it gives the teacher a prompt and it reminds them to reach out to the parent with something personal. So you know that it happens and you know how frequently it's happening. We also send weekly parent emails. So the same thing as the staff email. Every Friday we send a weekly update and it lets them know of upcoming events. We celebrate any birthdays or anything like that in there, but it's just that constant connection. And then providing timely feedback. We all know as parents, I'm sure most of us are parents, it's really frustrating when you send an email to your child's school and then it's days before somebody gets back to you. And especially now without seeing people in person often, it's so important that we get back to our parents within 24 hours or, you know, 1 business day. So I would really remind your directors and your staff and kind of stay on top of that email communication and in person and get back to the parents when they have questions. Really just with those apps, sharing tons of photos each day. A photo says 1,000 words. So since they can't be in the building, we need to encourage our staff to post a lot of pictures if you're using that communication app. Checking in with families periodically. So we've been asking our directors to reach out to 10 families a week with a personal phone call. So that just ensures that they're just reaching out to say, hey, I haven't been able to see you, what's going on, how's life? But that one connection makes them feel like it's more than just a school. You're actually building that relationship and family. And then lastly, just making sure that we're still celebrating. I know as preschools, we have in the past, you know, we've had tons of events like teddy bear picnic or the kids sing a special song on Thanksgiving. I feel like a lot of that went to the wayside and it's time to bring that back. So we need to be creative in how we do that, but it can still be done. So even if you can't have parents in your school, do yourself a favor and plan out, you know, the remaining months of the year and make sure that you incorporate these types of activities, but do it in a new way. If you have to do it via Zoom, still do it. Parents want to know that these are still happening, even just for their kids. Even if you can't do it via Zoom, we had for one of our events, we couldn't do it via Zoom. So we had each teacher post a short video in their ProCare Connect app, which is what we use, so they could see our teddy bear picnic going on and, you know, they could kind of join in on the fun. We've also done some things at pickup, like we celebrate National Fortune Cookie Day. So when we're doing the pickup line outside, we let their kid, you know, the child and the parent pick out a fortune cookie just to celebrate National Fortune Cookie Day. And it's those little things that are going to make the relationship special and still make that connection. And the connection is what's so important. It's what's going to keep your families from not coming to school or choosing somewhere else to go to school. And then lastly, we have communication with prospective parents. And that would be parents that you want to join your school. So with tours and in-person interactions being limited due to COVID, we really have to make the most again about every opportunity we have to communicate with parents. So number 1, social media is your friend. So when you're posting things on social media, make sure that the pictures you're posting truly depict the benefits of your school. So if you really want to hone in on the cleanliness, it's okay to post pictures of your teachers using that new fog machine or have something fun going on in the front, but in the background, somebody's cleaning. I mean, like I said, a picture says 1,000 words. So just make sure that you're being intentional with your social media. Have a plan. Sometimes it's helpful to have a plan for each day of the week. Monday could be focused on cleanliness, Tuesday on social and emotional benefits. And that way it gives you a guide. You know, the prospective parents don't need to know that that's what you're doing, but that way you know you're hitting on all 5 of the benefits that you want to each week. And then to save time, you can pre-post these. Pick one day, like on Friday, and set aside 1 hour and pre-post your 5 posts for the following week so that you get it out of the way. And then effective tours. So tours I know are different depending on where you are. Some people are having people come into the schools and some are having to do virtual. But in all, just make sure that you are prepared for your tour. We've created a tour stop guide that we use at our locations that ensures that when someone's giving a tour, that the tour is always uniform. And we know that they're hitting on all the benefits of our school so that they don't waste that opportunity. And we have a sample of the tour guide, and there's also a parent checklist that goes along with it. So like while the parent's on the tour, they can be checking off what you're going over with them so that you can really gain their attention and make sure that they're also seeing the benefits that you're trying to share. And then train your staff. Like if parents are coming in your school and it's in a limited capacity, train your staff to take over the tour. So this might be their only time to connect with your staff, because if parents aren't coming in the building other than touch-free tours, this might be their only time to engage with the staff. So train your staff on when you walk into the room, they take over the tour and the teacher actually talks to the parent while you take over what they're doing in the class. It's really impressive to them when the teacher does step in and help talk to the parents and engage with them. It really makes that connection. And then last, we have lead tracking and follow-up. So make sure that whenever whomever is answering your phone has a phone script. Eventually they'll have it down pat, but we always have a phone script available right at our front desk. So no matter who's sitting there, you know that the interaction and conversation that people are having on the phone is just the way you want it to be, and that they're capturing all the information that you need to get back with them. Make sure that your follow-up on your phone conversations is timely. So I would say within 24 hours, make sure you're getting back to them. And then I know Sholom is going to bring up hopping in at the end, but with us having families that are kind of wary about coming back, they might not want to commit to a full-time schedule or to a contractual agreement. So we've utilized hopping in, which is a program that we are going to introduce, or Shalom's going to introduce at the end. We've used it as a way for parents to kind of try out our school. So if we have an empty space in a class from, for like a Tuesday, Thursday spot open in one class, we definitely encourage families that do a tour or call for information that if they want to try out our school, that we have a hopping in program that allows them to even pick up one day to bring their child to experience our program, so that then they can feel more comfortable without making a commitment. And that's been a way that we really utilized hopping in as a tool to effectively enroll families. So that's it for me. So I'm going to pass it on over to Caroline. Thank you so much. And if you guys have questions, more questions, please feel free to reach out.
Oof. Great stuff, Casey and Shalom. Like we had mentioned in the beginning, these guys are in the trenches. They live this every day, and this is real stuff that they're using, and they're not just preaching it, like they're actually living it. And I know, we're running a little behind on time, so I've got just a couple things that I'm going to go over that are more of that culture piece, because I really believe that culture is a driver for enrollment. If we have a negative culture or a toxic culture, anyone that comes into your organization is immediately going to feel it. So you're fooling yourself if your environment is toxic and you don't think that parents are feeling it, or that your staff is not feeling it. And remember, your employees are also your customer. So we need to market to our employees, we need to market to prospective families, and our culture plays a huge piece of that. I know personally that when I started at my first childcare center, we had such bad turnover. It was like 45% turnover. And we were only at 70% capacity at that time. And it was really hard to build enrollment. We couldn't understand why. And it wasn't until we turned our culture around, and at that point, immediately our enrollment started ramping up to the point where we were over 100% full. So I just want to encourage you, culture is a really hard piece to fix. It doesn't happen overnight. So you're not going to go from 40% capacity up to 120 right away. It's going to take a little work. And I always like to start with just that first piece. What I believe is the most important part of culture is really understanding your bigger purpose and your vision. And not just you as an owner or director, but does your team remember why they're doing what they're doing? And it's your job as a leader in your organization to try to remind your team why they are doing what they're doing. We got into teaching not because of the paycheck, right? We all hear that. You're not going to be rich. We didn't go into childcare to be wealthy. We went into childcare for a reason. We have a story that we remember. Maybe it was a friend of ours that had special needs that wasn't getting care, or maybe it was a child of ours that wasn't being treated right. So we decided to get into early education. Whatever it is, we need to kind of dive back into that bigger purpose of why we do what we do. And there's a link I'm going to share at the end of a podcast from Simon Sinek, and I'm going to mess up Cheney's name, but it's Cheney was, I'm not even going to do it right. I'm not going to do it justice. Shalom might be able to, but I can't. But they just.
Connie Wolczynski.
Okay, thank you. So she had an interview with Simon Sinek, which we know, he's a really great speaker on motivation and culture and that kind of stuff. They talked about that bigger purpose and the why, and how to get that out of your team, and then what to do with that. And he shared a story of just asking them, reminding your team, asking that question, why they do what they do, and then sharing it together. So in a staff meeting, devote one staff meeting to asking everyone why they got into early education, and then everyone tell their story. So now you're all relating to each other's story and you're getting excited about it. And that's all of a sudden you're going to remember why you believed in it. And then it's going to become contagious. And that's step one into rebuilding your cultures, just reigniting that passion inside and supporting each other. So now you're all going to be excited because I now know why Sally got into early education. I now know why Casey did. I know why Sholom did. And now I'm invested in my coworkers. And that's going to in turn have a really positive impact on your enrollment. Because they're going to go out, we're going to talk about this next slide. They're going to become a raving fan. So they're going to love your organization, your culture is going to turn around. And when you're a raving fan, like Casey had mentioned, you're going to have this loyalty fence around your organization. And what that is they're going to go that word of mouth, and they're going to be referring other people to come work at your center, to come enroll at your center. Parents are going to be the same. You want your parents to be raving fans. And I always like to equate it to fan. If you remember, you may have heard this from a prior webinar, but it's just three things. You know, first impressions. You know, Sholom had mentioned a couple of those, Casey also, from your online presence to your facility, to your social media, all of that, those are first impressions. That onboarding process, that's a first impression. And so that's the first stage of becoming a raving fan. And then once they come into your organization, whether they're a parent or a staff member, you have to keep engaging them. So Casey gave some really great examples of communication, feedback, surveys, appreciation, staff meetings, one-on-ones. All of those types of things are ways to keep engaging, not only with your families, but with your staff. And the more you do that, the more they're going to be loyal to your organization, which means the more they're going to refer your company, which is what we need right now. And then finally, I always like to end it with now and forever. So while they're in your organization, again, we're going to make sure that we're asking them to give a testimony, to do a referral, to go on Yelp, Google, you know, like Sholom was saying. We want to get their feedback and we want to publish that feedback, okay? And then when they leave your organization, that's the forever. They don't just leave and then they're gone. We want them to be forever an ambassador of your organization, whether they're a family or an employee. If they hear a friend or someone out in the community talking about needing childcare, you hope that you've built such a loyalty fence with that person that they are referring your center. And so that fan, that first impressions, always keep engaging, and now and forever is a really simple thing to teach your staff. And then finally, again, put it into practice. Like Casey had mentioned, you know, gratitude and appreciation is one thing, but making sure it's individualized. So if I'm the center director and I heard Susie did something really great with one of the children that maybe has a biting issue in the classroom, I want to make sure that as a leader in our organization, I go up to that teacher and I say, hey, I heard this real specific thing about something wonderful that you did. That's individualized gratitude, okay? You know, if you're going to write a birthday card or a thank you note, don't just say happy birthday. You know, be real specific about what you value about that person. And so just going those extra miles, again, creates raving fans, which brings in word of mouth and then enrollment. So all those things are really, really important in your organization in terms of things that you can put into practice. You know, having those intentional talks and those one-on-ones are really great ways to just catch up with your employees and make sure that you're listening to their needs. Again, like Casey had mentioned. And then when you're observing in the classroom, this is the last piece I want to bring up. And again, it has to do with that Simon Sinek podcast. when you observe in the classroom, don't just observe to see the bad things. When you observe, look for the good things the teacher is doing, and then have those conversations with the teacher in terms of, I want to celebrate with all the wonderful things that you did in the classroom. Don't focus on the negative. Instead, save all the negatives for a staff meeting, and then you can share all the negatives at the staff meetings and the positives without pointing fingers. You know, unless it's like a really severe, you know, licensing issue or whatever. But try to, don't let teachers be afraid to be observed, because I know our staff was like that. Instead, let them excited to have you come observe and see them teach. You know, that's a whole mindset shift that I want to encourage you to do. And I just thought that was a really great story. So again, culture is critical into building your enrollment and in retaining your current family and retaining your staff. So focus on that bigger why, focus on individualized gratitude, and make everyone a raving fan. Shalom, why don't you wrap us up?
Okay, thank you, Caroline and Casey. That was great content. And please feel free, Casey and Caroline, to jump in case I'm missing anything and chime in on this slide. So let me introduce to you, if you don't know what hopping in is, a little bit. It started because we realized that most centers aren't completely full every day. Even if, let's say, you think you're full, we all know there's absences. We all know if you allow part-time and full-time, sometimes there's the part-time student doesn't show, sometimes the Monday, Wednesday, Friday doesn't show, or Tuesday, Thursday. So all in all, there's always some excess inventory, especially now with what's going on with the pandemic. There's many people are struggling, and even if you're not struggling, we found that there's always empty spaces. So what we did was we created a tool called Hopping In that allows you to display your availability, your open vacant spaces, whether you know offhand that they're vacant, so you can just list it manually, which spaces are available on a consistent basis. You can open or close those spaces. Or the other cool part is that parents can report themselves as us opening up that space. And if it gets rebooked by somebody else, you can give them a portion of the proceeds. You don't have to give them all of it. You can give them a small percentage of it. It's up to you, the amount. So what we found, generally speaking, is that there is demand for drop-in. We all know that in today's world, people are a lot more flexible. There's a lot more co-working. There's a lot more working from home. There's all sorts of situations. So we've always found that a lot of people are always asking about flexible arrangements. So for example, if you're a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday parent, I'm sure you guys have found many times that they're interested in the Tuesday and Thursday spot. They call you up, is the spot available, so on and so forth. Now it's all done through this website that we created called hoppingin.com, which is all automated for you. And the great thing is that you're going to see demand among part-timers. Like I gave an example before, if you're a Tuesday and Thursday family, you may want to pick up Wednesday. You could check wait listers. So you can tell people on the wait list, you know, if you want to experience our center, or if you want to have a better shot at getting to the top of the wait list, start to use this. And it's a great tool because you can get a feel for that family and they can get a feel for you. And also people on the fence, people who are just, you know, curious about your center and you want to really wow them and give them a couple days. There's even coupons you can do for free days, et cetera, and things like that. So the great thing, other great things about it is that it's going to greatly increase your profitability, because even if you're, let's say, for example, fully sold out and your class is full and there's a Tuesday and Thursday parent doesn't come, there might be a Monday, Wednesday, Friday parent that wants the Thursday, you know, slot or something like that. And so you're basically paying the same, you know, overhead, same rent, the same utilities, supplies, staffing, except you're getting additional income based on the availability that you were able to show using Hopping In. And you can charge even higher rates because this is a convenience. You know, we do understand a little inconvenient, but we've made it very possible to get advanced reports and emails and alerts on who is or isn't coming. So that's hopefully going to alleviate a lot of the inconvenience of people dropping in and out and things of that nature. But you can charge a higher rate for this. We charge at our schools over 30% more for the daily drop-in rate. And people are more than willing to pay it for the convenience. So if, again, going back to the example, if you're a part-time parent or just an occasional drop-in parent and you really want the spot, you will pay the increased rate for the spot. And we only charge a commission only if you make sales. So it's free, totally free to sign up. And if you do well, then we do well. We take a 10% commission. So we advise our customers to add about 10%, and that will more than cover the cost for trying our software. And like I stated before, parents can go ahead and mark themselves absent, say, hey, I'm not coming in, I'm gonna be absent. And they have a chance, if somebody rebooks that spot, of getting some sort of credit based on what you allow. You could allow no credit if you want, but we found it's wise to incentivize parents by giving them a credit, or actually we're working right now on an instant credit so that it'll go refunded right back on their card. So let's say you sell a spot for $100, the parent who dropped that spot and it got rebooked by someone, if you're offering 20%, they'll get $20 back on the credit card instantly, or you can choose to $20 off next month's tuition. So without going into too much technical detail, that's basically the overview of the program.
Shalom, there was a question. Somebody asked if this is controlled by the school or the parent, and the program itself is controlled by the school. The parents do have the ability to drop spaces, but when you set up your hopping in site for your school, you just choose that you want to approve drops before they're posted. So if a Monday, Wednesday, Friday family was going out of town, let's say, and they just dropped all the spaces in the week, you can deny the Tuesday and Thursday drop. So it doesn't go live until you approve it. So it's very, very simple. When I first met Sholom, it was through using Hopping In as a provider. And I kept putting it on the back burner because I thought, oh, it's another program, I want to use it. But everyone always says it's easy to use programs, and then you get started and you're like, oh my gosh, this took like, a century and they need all this data. It literally is set up within 20 minutes. You add your classrooms, add the age limitations, and it gives you the emails, automated email to send to your parents to introduce the program. And then from there, you can start using it right away. And at the end of the month, it does give you a report, a summary report of all the spaces booked. So if you're giving credits to your family that way, it makes it very easy to just enter those credits into whatever system you're using, on top of giving you a daily report.
Yeah, and Shalom, I mean, you can make some good revenue off of this too. So maybe give just a quick example of how much money you can make a month, like you've done in your schools.
Yeah, I mean, in our, pre-pandemic, at some of our schools, which the daily rates are about over $100 generally, because it's an urban, heavily populated area of Chicago. We've seen like between $2,000 to $3,000, and I know Casey has seen like between $1,000 to $2,000 on a typical basis at her schools, I believe, an extra income per month. Yeah.
We didn't start using it until just before the pandemic. So even during the pandemic, it was for each of our for each location, it was bringing in $500 to $600 extra dollars of income, and ours was just through families dropping spaces. So we didn't really have extra spaces. Our schools were still full, but families were dropping spaces and other part-time families were picking them up. They just might have needed an extra day than what they had intended.
Yeah, so it's a great tool, and it's something that Shalom helped invent, and he uses in his school, and now Casey's really kind of a driver and helping centers really use it to its full potential. But yeah, great stuff, guys. We went through real quick, just marketing with a COVID twist is what I like to call it, right, Shalom? Yep. And a lot of great communication techniques with Casey, and then again, culture and, just kind of revenue tools like Hopping In. It's a really great little added revenue generator for your center. And Hopping In is one of our sponsors for our leadership box. So I just those cool pens that he showed in the beginning, those will be in our box this time too.
And Hopping In is also one of our business affiliates that helps support our advocacy. So I just can't thank you enough. We see through the chat, we had 101 participants today from several different states. And the feedback coming back is this has really helped people. So Shalom, Caroline, and Casey, I cannot thank you enough on behalf of the providers that were able to participate. And is there a winner for the leadership before we start exiting the webinar? Sorry. Is there a winner, Caroline?
Oh, I thought Diane was picking the winner. So why don't we do this? We will announce our winner, because what I'll have to do is get the email.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will get that box shipped out as soon as it's ready.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
It does. I was going to recommend that we, if we don't have a method for picking the webinar winner, the winner, we could look at, designating like the 10th person to sign on. I don't know, if that's a good idea, but we will definitely get a winner out.
Yeah, I think Diane's got it figured out. So we're
okay.
Yep.
And you can hear me, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good. All right, good. Well,
so I see a lot of everyone saying, this is Diane again. I'm seeing a lot of people are thanking, and so we want to thank everyone. We recognize that it is 2 o'clock. Casey, Caroline, and Shalom, if you want to stay on for some technical questions, and if anyone has questions, they can certainly shoot them over. Also, keep in mind, in the future, we will have a webinar where we'll go over more of the technical aspects of hopping in. So that way you can really have a one-on-one in a sense with this program and platform. So we look forward to getting you that information. So please keep reading those emails. Does anybody have any questions or comments to end?
We're happy to take a few questions. If anybody has, we're more than happy to stay on for a few more minutes if anyone has any specific questions. Of course, you can go to our website, hoppingin.com, just fill out the contact form, and we'll get back to you immediately.
And like I said, we'll have some resources that'll be sent out to everyone, because we threw a lot of information out at you guys today.
Yeah, I think in the end, what everyone just needs to remember is that in childcare in general, we're going to win by being servant leaders. As long as we're uplifting our people, our parents, and our kids, they're going to in turn uplift us. So every opportunity is an opportunity for us to help someone else, and nothing is below our pay grade, which means that we're willing to help in any way that we can, which will elevate us to the next level. So just remember that everything you're doing every day is making a difference.
That's a great close, Casey. I totally agree with that. So thank you all for being servant leaders in the industry.
And yes, we will have this video up on nationalchildcare.org within the week, but we will be sending a survey with a link to that page and more resources. So you all will be receiving that. So be looking for that. And again, nationalchildcare.org, keep going there. And thanks everyone. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks everyone.
Bye. Stay warm up north. Shalom.
I will. I'm doing a good job of that. Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thanks all. Bye-bye.